our HOD and the resource person, Mr. Kumar Sundaram, for the workshop on deep neural networks organized by Department of CSC Cybersecurity in association with Imarcatus Learning and Center of Excellence for Data Analytics and Machine Learning, CSI Student Branch, ISTE and IASC. Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and attended to with diligence. The resource person for today's workshop is Mr. Kumar Sundaram, who is a data science and analytics professional with around a decade's worth of rich experience across the analytics technology stack. He has worked across a multitude of roles spanning corporate trainer, individual contributor, developer, consultant, project manager, and client engagement manager. He has helped professionals and organizations in various domains like retail, telecom, life sciences, finance, banking, etc. in solving their business problems using data science, business analytics, and machine learning. I would like now to hand over the session to our resource person, Mr. Kumar Sundaram. Sir, you can take over, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for a brief introduction. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon, and it's really privileged to giving sharing my knowledge amongst you. So just let me know if you are able to see my screen. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. Can you please confirm? Are you able to see my screen, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect. So, my dear friend, as ma'am suggested, today's workshop is more about deep learning, right? So, what I will do in today's workshop, we will give some fair understanding what is deep neural networks, when we can use deep neural networks, what is the difference in machine learning, right? And then one case study I will pick it, and so that you guys can see the difference, how we can use deep learning with the case study, how simple it is. To writing a code and all, it's the simplest one, but to understanding, you should have fair understanding of Python, my friend. So this is what the prerequisite. If you wanted to upgrade yourself in deep learning, first thing first, please understand this is what is called AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, and this is what is called machine learning. So we can say machine learning is a subset of AI and deep learning is a subset of ML. Now please understand, when I say machine learning and deep learning, please don't think that deep learning is a separate topic. This is part of machine learning only. Yeah, but what we have, this is just a difference in algorithm. When I say machine learning, you will learn supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, and then we have reinforcement learning, and we have one is more is called semi-supervised machine learning. So here lots of algorithm you will get here regression problem and classification problem. In regression and classification, you will learn linear regression model, logistic regression model, decision tree, random forest, k nearest neighbor, support vector machine, Naive Bayes theorem. Then we have ensemble techniques called bagging, boosting, cascading, stacking. These are the algorithms there. Similarly, in unsupervised machine learning, you will get to learn here what is clustering, k-means cluster, hierarchical cluster, DBA scan cluster, what is market basket association rule, what is a recommendation engine, and reinforcement learning. Again, you will get two types of algorithm. One is awarding and reward, and another is called penalty. And semi-supervised, and like that, you will get some time series forecasting as well. Similarly, in deep neural networks, when we say deep neural networks, here you will get the first part is called artificial neural network, which is also known as deep neural networks. And we can also say the fancy word is called perceptron. Okay, I'll tell you in a while what is the meaning of perceptron. The second is called, you will learn something called CNN. Now, this perceptron or artificial neural network or deep neural network, whatever you can see here in supervised machine learning or unsupervised machine learning, a regression problem or classification problem, you can also solve by these methods, right? It's very, very simple. Even I can say it's an advanced one, right? but we are using deep neural networks because of some advantage. We have so many features there due to computational power, due to huge data set we have. When you have a huge data set, machine learning is not capable of doing this. So for that we use deep learning, but that is possible. Second is called CNN. CNN is mainly for image recognition, right? Image processing, which is not possible by machine learning. If you say, can I build the image processing and all, for that you have to go by deep neural networks. We have another is called computer vision, which is very nowadays lots of organization or research, they are applying the computer vision. Some of the case study, a famous case study, helmet detection, mass detection, person wear mask or not, they travel it. So all these things you can do by the help of computer vision. And then we have something called RNN, recurring neural networks, LSTM, long short term memory, and GRU, gated recurring unit. Okay, and then 5, you will get some advanced part, sequence to sequence model, then transformer model, attention model, and then finally we have BERT. These all topic comes from NLP, natural language processing. Very advanced topic, and it's very diligent topic, I can say. If you wanted to to understand the text mining, like you have seen some example Google text, if you are not aware of the Spanish language, you are speaking English, and some people are speaking in Spanish, how can I understand? So some of the best example is Google, speech to text, text to speech, Google Assistant. We have some of the resource called Robin app, Siri app, you have seen. So these are the things we can do by this model. So these are just an algorithm. Okay, please don't treat deep learning as a different and machine learning. Both are part of AI only. Like I said, deep learning. Now, what are the prerequisites there to understand all these things? You should have a good in basic Python. Okay, if you know basic Python, fair enough, you can go apply all these machine learning techniques and all deep learning techniques. It's very simple, no problem at all. But basic Python is really required. If you don't know, then there is a problem, right? Now we are moving back to AI part. Please understand what is AI actually, right? Nowadays there are fun going on, people, human being are working on WhatsApp, Facebook, right, social website, Twitter and all, and machine is learning all these things. So we are giving a training to our machine so that machine can take a decision, they can perform on our behalf, right? And we as a human being, if anybody say, is it possible that 24/7 you can work properly in all 365 days? We can say no, we are a human being, we can't, but machine is able to do it. So that's why you have to enable your machine so that machine can take a decision also, not only they perform. So here you have to categorize AI into two parts, my friend. One is called, you can say, ruled based AI. And another is called machine learning AI. So going forward, if anybody say how many types of AI we have, see, there are lots of examples you will get when you read research paper, when you refer some good books. But in a nutshell, you can understand there are two types of AI we have. One is called ruled based AI, another is called machine learning based AI. Now, what is ruled based AI? Let's say I'm saying here, this is my input variable X, and this is my output variable Y. If I'm giving input and I can see the trend is going, when I'm giving 1, my answer is also coming 1. When I'm giving 2, my answer is coming 4. When I can see put 3, my answer is coming 9. 4, my answer is coming 16. What happened here? You can say what is Y? The function of X. This is the relation I'm getting here. So Y equal to, you can say Y equal to I'm getting X square. Whatever value is coming, this is what I'm getting, right? So you can see the rule here. We can say there is a pattern going on. 1, then this. Similarly, if I ask you what is, if I can say input is 9, what would be the answer? So immediately you can say 81. Why? Because this is X square. So whatever value there, you can just multiply with the same number. This type of problem comes, my dear friend, we can say these type of ruled base. We can make a rule We can assign, we can write hard coded code in our machine so that machine can understand. We can say we have to understand the requirement, get the requirement, get the requirement, get the requirement. You can say I wanted to get the requirement. And once you get the requirement, you can say, okay, I wanted to find the why. Then you have to build the model. You have to build the model. I'm just telling you a very, very simple example. It's a toy example, I can say. It's very simple example so that you can connect what does mean by rule-based AI. And once you build the rule, right? Once you build the logic, I can say logic. Once you build the logic, you have to convert into language. You have to convert into language. And language would be your Python, would be your R, would be your other language. So this is what is called rule-based AI. Second part is called machine learning AI, my friend. What is machine learning AI? If I say there is an image there, there is an image there. Let's say I'm saying image there. You can see I'm just going in Google. You can see here. And this is the image there, my friend. Let's say. I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So just see this image. Now what happened here, my friend? If I ask you, okay, you have to make a rule here. You can just assign to your machine in such a way so that machine can train. You can say, okay, there is a big, tusk there. We have one tusk there. There are two trunk there. There are, big bodies there, dark bodies there. Then we can say there are four legs there, right? Four legs there, two eyes there, two ears there. Wherever your condition is, you have tusk, you have trunk, you have one tail, two trunk, one tail, you have two eyes, right? Two ear, and so on. If this is my rule there, then you have to predict that what is this image? What is this image? Then this is your role. If anybody asks you, can you please tell me what would be this? What would be this? Tell me what about this? My friend, if I ask you, can you please tell me what is this? What is this? What do you say? We as a human being. What do you say? We as a human being. Can I say this is also elephant? Yes or no? You can see this image, and if I ask you what is this, you can say this is also elephant. But can you go by this link? Whatever the rule I have said. If I say one tusk, two trunk, right, one tail, two eyes, two ears, I'm not able to see that. But our human brain, our brain is thinking like that. This is also elephant only. But machine, how machine can understand? Because you have written a hard code rule here. You have given a rule here that I can only define that this is an elephant when I can see two trunk, one tusk, one big body, four legs, right? Two ears, two eyes, two ears, all these things. But here I'm not able to find it anything. I'm not able to see this image properly. I'm not able to see this image properly. But still our conscious mind is saying this is elephant. If such type of problem comes, my dear friend, you have to use deep neural networks. Then you have to train your machine to deep neural networks so that they can take a decision and they perform on that basis. So that's why we can say artificial neural network is something called the way human is thinking. Similarly, your machine can also think rationally. The human, the way we act it, similarly machine can also act it. That is called deep neural networks. And whenever the image recognition is coming, a speech recognition comes, right, wherever you wanted to convert any language from other language, you have seen lots of bot, right? What is requirement? That time you have to use the neural networks. My dear friend, everyone comfortable till now? You understood what is, when you will go for machine learning and when you go for rule based? Simple definition. Now you can see here deep neural networks. Please understand this part now. First, actually, it came very early in 1957. 1957. One of the mathematician, their name is Rosenbelt. Rosenbelt. He has given, he actually, he was a mathematician. Okay, he was a mathematician. He has given a brilliant idea about, deep neural networks. And one more modern computer father, Alan Turing. His name is Alan Turing. Why I'm telling this? Because when you get time, please go and use the Google it, right? Alan Turing, Wikipedia. You will get complete details. What is his contribution on deep neural networks or deep learning, right? We can say deep learning. So he is actually a father of computer, right? Both of them has given this logic, deep neural networks, early in 1957. And till 1957, till 1980, even I can say 86, till 86, they have done lots and lots of, build lots of algorithm. So many things happen research, and they have actually connected with brain. How the human brain works, similarly can machine behave, and how they have taken lots of human brain, monkey's brain, ant brain, all types of creature. Even though human brain is one of the brilliant creature across the globe, right, in this cosmos. So they have taken all these things and they build the model. Now how is it happen? You can just see, my friend, you can see here, this is the human brain is there, and this is very, very complex. But if you go in deep neural networks, my friend, this is the simplest one. So I'm saying neural network image. I'm going here, image. You can see this versus human brain. So you can see here, this is the simplest example, my friend. Copy this. So you can see here, this is the human brain, right? This is the human brain. Very simple. This is called human brain. What happened? What they did? It's very simple. It's very complex to understand all these things, but it's very, very simple one. You know how these are the information is coming. That is called dendrites. These are the information is coming to the nucleus, or we can say cell body, right? Cell body. It's a nucleus, and then this information is passes to through axon, and it will come to other. There is a terminal node or leaf node. This is my one neuron. Similarly, machine will connect it with another neuron and passes through another neuron, and so on. It's happened. Now how deep learning works? Same way, deep learning, you have to say, I have to create input variable called x1, x2, x3, up to so on xn, and you have to build. I'm just drawing a very simple this is my input variable. This part is called input variable. Please understand the architecture. If you know the architecture, it's very, very easy. So input variable, this is my hidden layer. This is called hidden layer, and then you will get the output. This is called output layer. Now each input variable connected with hidden layer, and that is called weight 1, weight 2, weight 3, and up to so on. You will get weight n, and similarly you will get one bias also. So bias is written by 1, which is called bias b. This part is called, my friend, a step function. This part is called a step function. If you know architecture, my friend, it's very, very simple to explain, to understand, to perform better. So whenever you learn any topic in deep learning, right, my suggestion is every time you can go by architecture first. Please understand how it comes. That is called SciPOC journey. Okay. what is the source, what is the process, what is the input, what I want to get the output, and how to close this, complete this. So this is the journey, SIPOC journey. Every time keep in mind SIPOC journey. Now my friend, you can see here, each input variable connected with weight, right? Connected with weight, and that will come here in the summation, which is called a step function. And after that, this step function, you have to put it here, activation function. This is called activation function F. This is called activation function. Activation function. And here, whatever the result will come, then you can say this is my output. This is my output. And that is denoted by y I hat, means my predicted value. This is called predicted value. And whatever the predicted value you will get, you have to validate with actual versus predicted. Why? Because you have to train your machine, you have to validate this, you have to evaluate it, and you can say, are we getting any error? That error part is also known as loss function or cost function. Okay, so wherever you see loss function or cost function, this is called error. Once you are not getting any error and all, then only you have to go. So if I say what is the best loss value, you can say 0 is the best loss value, means there is no error then. So our target is anyhow we have to reach there. This process, this input variable means you have a variable data set, raw data, right? You have a raw data. What you perform, you will get weight calculation is happened. I'll tell you in a while what is weight, how weight is calculated, and then it will come here. The first is called a step function. Now what is a step function? You can say a step function is, I have written here summation. You can see I have written here summation. What does it mean by summation? Means adding, right? What does it mean by summation? You can say adding. So here summation means you can say x1 into w1 plus x2 w2 plus x3 w3 and plus up to so on. You can say xn and wn.
Sir.
And plus, yes, go ahead.
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, register number 8 present, sir.
Register number
8, sir.
Yes, this is workshop. Who is that? Sir, you continue, sir.
Okay, sorry. So here, sorry, I thought what happened, what is meaning of 8 and all. Okay, so 1 into B. Okay, 1 into B. Now, for the time being, my friend, just forget about the bias part, because bias only comes, anybody say when bias comes, when you can do activation function. Okay, please remember, bias only comes when we filled the activation function. You have to remember this part. Bias only come when we have activation function. This step function means x1 multiplied by this w1 plus summation is given, x2 multiply w2, x3 multiplied by w3 up to so on. This is called activation function. This is called step function. This is called a step function. Now, second part said activation function. My friend, there are lots of activation function there. We have activation function is called unit activation function, linear activation function, sigmoid activation function. We have ReLU activation function. We have ALU activation function. We have SALU activation function. We have softmax activation function. We have 10 hyperbolic activation function, and etc. You can just type in Google activation function, Wikipedia, you will get n number of activation function. In real time, my dear friend, when you do it, you will use very frequently sigmoid. ReLU is the most because it came in 2012, and after that it's very, very famous, right? Softmax, SALU came actually in 2017, but still it's not so much famous, right? But this was very, very famous. One is called Leaky ReLU, that is also very famous. Leaky ReLU. very famous. So these two are very famous. Softmax is also very famous. So you will use sigmoid very frequently, ReLU very frequently, leaky ReLU very frequently, and softmax. These are the very frequently you will use it. Sometime I have seen 10 hyperbolic also. So what it will do, let's say my dear friend, I am saying here, we have three input variable x1, or I'm just saying my one variable value is given here 10, 20 and 30. These are my input variable, input 1, input 2, input 3. And you know, we have three hidden variable, hidden layer also there. Or let's say I'm just giving one hidden layer, okay, for simplicity. So there are three input variable and I'm saying we have only one input variable, hidden variable there. You can say this will come here, multiply, right? This is my weight 1, weight 2, weight 3. Summation will happen and then finally you will get the output. Let's say my output is given 100. You have used the step function. What step function will do? They say this 10 into W1, right? You can say 10 into W1 plus 20 into W2 and plus 30 into W3. Whatever the result will come, that is your predicted value. And you have to evaluate with the actual value. Let's say actual value I'm saying 100. Very, very simple example, right? So what you have to do, I'm saying let's say W1 equal to I'm putting 1, W2 equal to I'm putting 2, and W3 equal to 3. Now what happened here, my friend? You can say 10 into 1, 20 into 2 and 30 into 3. Can I write here 10 plus 22 40 and 33 90? How much it's coming? 140. Now my dear friend, this is my predicted value. Now if I ask you what is the error, so error we will not say, we always say loss, right? Loss function. You can say loss function is, you can say actual minus predicted. 100 minus 140 means you are getting minus 40. That is the error. That's my error. How to rectify this? So loss function is, my friend, loss function has a big role in deep neural networks. Loss function has a big role. You can say loss function equal to 1 by 2 summation I equal to 1 to n actual value minus predicted value. Predicted value is denoted by hat n square. This is the loss function. There are lots of loss function there. We have hinge loss. We have lots and lots of loss there. We have log loss function. We have loss cross entropy functions. We have mean square error. Lots of loss function there. Mean square error, root mean square error. We have mean absolute error. We have mean absolute percent error, right? We have Akai information criteria. We have Bayesian information criteria. We have log loss. There are so many log loss. Then we have a cross entropy. It depends, right? As and when you can solve the algorithm, as and when you perform the case study, you can decide what algorithm I have to go and what activation function I have to perform. Accordingly, you will decide, right? Let's say this is my linear problem. Let's say this is my regression problem. Regression means continuous variable. Regression means my output would be continuous variable. So here I am getting 40. What you have to do here? You can say, why not I can change this W equal to, I am putting here 1 or I am putting here 2. Here I am putting 1 and here I am putting 2. And then you have to say 10 into, you can say 10 into 2 plus 20 into 1 plus 30 into 2. And you can see when you multiply this, 10 to the 20, 21 the 20 and plus 30 to the 60. Your answer is coming 100. So predicted value is also 100 and your actual value is also 100. What is your loss value now? What is your loss value? Your loss value is 0. This is the objective, my dear friend, to reach it, right? This is the objective. So that is why you are drawing this diagram. Whatever input variable there, you have to perform and come here in the step function. Then you can see if it is regression problem, don't use you can use activation function equal to linear only. so that whatever the value there, that will come exactly here. And then you have to see what is my loss function. So then second part is, dear friend, second part is called activation function. Activation function is unit. If I say, just I'm putting here, activation function is, let's say, ReLU activation function. ReLU activation function. Very simple. What it will do, it will say max of x value and 0 value. Now, whatever the maximum value is there, let's say this is the diagram is there. Let's say this value is coming. I am saying this is the value. If I am getting here -3, if I say x equal to, here I am saying x equal to -3, and here let's say x equal to 5, x equal to 5. So what this ReLU function will do, they will use the max x equal to -3 and comma 0, this 0. And what is my maximum value? -3 or 0? 0 is the maximum. Your answer is 0. Means any negative value, what ReLU will do, any negative value will consider 0. They will not give the any negative value. That's why it's given x and 0. Or if I say max equal to 5, here max equal to, I have given -3. Now I'm saying max x equal to 3 or 5 and comma 0. Now what is maximum value? 5. So your answer is 5. So max value, whenever say, okay, ReLU, whenever I say ReLU function, as I told you, it's a very famous. So ReLU always give the 0 to infinite, but it will not give the negative value, right? Similarly, 10 hyperbolic. If someone asks what 10 hyperbolic will do, what 10 hyperbolic will do, you can say 10 hyperbolic will give the sigmoid curve like that, and -1 to +1 range, This is called 10 hyperbolic. What is sigmoid? Sigmoid will give you 0 to 1. The range is 0 to 1, right? So I would request to all of you, my dear friend, I have written this activation function. Please go understand what is the meaning of unit, what is the meaning of linear, what is the meaning of sigmoid, what is ReLU, what is ELU, what is SeLU, what is softmax, what is 10 hyperbolic, what is leaky ReLU. All these things, please understand this. Okay, and once you use the activation function, by default you will get bias also. And bias equal to, you will consider mostly bias equal to 1 into B. So here the formula will come. My dear friend, x1 W1 plus x2 W2 plus x3 W3 plus up to so on. And here you can say x and Wn equal to, you can say a step function. This is my step function. And you can just assign this equal to ij or zi. So you can say zi means step function, and after that you have to use the activation function here. You can use the activation function. What is activation function? You can denote by, you can see here what I have done. I have written here f. This is called activation function. So how you write it? You can say this step function, this is my step function, this is my activation function. So you can say activation function equal to, you can say here activation function equal to function of zi. This zi is a step value. Please remember this. Means you can say W transpose x plus beta B1. This is called the value. And after that you will get the loss value, my dear friend. The final output is this. And this approach is called, what I have written here, this is my x1. Let's say this is my x2. This is my x3. Let's say this is my hidden layer. This is my another hidden layer, and this is my output. Let's say this is my layer 1, this is my layer 2. It will come here weight 1, weight 2, weight 3. All weight will connected this. You can say weight 1, weight dash 1, weight dash 2, weight dash 2, 3. Similarly, my dear friend, all weight will connected with this. So this will connect here. This is my weight. Second weight is calculated by this. Everything will connected by this, and the third one is called this. Okay, only 2 is there, so fine. This is my layer 1. Now this will connected by this also and this also. This will connected by this and this. And everywhere you will get a weight. Everywhere you will get a weight. So you can say here W-1 and W-2. W-1 and W-2. This is W-1 and W-2. You can write it like that. Again, you can say this is my W2 1, W2 2. This is my W2 3 and W2 4. This is my W3 1 and W3 2. And then finally you will get the Y output, Yi hat. This approach, my dear friend, what happened? It will go here. It will use the step function. Here we can say step function plus activation function. Again calculated, it will come here. Again it will calculate it, and finally it will come here. So everywhere a step function plus activation function works, and then finally you get the output. This whole approach, my dear friend, is known as forward propagation. Forward propagation. Please remember this. This whole approach is called forward propagation. And here when you get the Y hat, that is called loss value. You have to identify whether I'm getting error or not. If you are getting an error, my dear friend, you have to go back. You have to go back, amend this value. You have to go back and change the value. You have to go back and update the weight value. You have to go back, update the weight value. You can go back, update the weight value. This approach is called back propagation. Back propagation. Dear friend, this is all about the deep learning. Back propagation is the key things to understand the deep learning, guys. If you don't know back propagation, you are not able to solve this. Yeah, this is the most significant part. And even, you know, if you go for interview, if you do a research work, if you do assignment, anything, this is the crux of the neural networks, dear friend. Back propagation. Yeah, anybody say what is back propagation? Back propagation is nothing. It's called just like a gradient descent. Gradient descent. It's a gradient descent, my dear friend. What is this? What is this? You can see. If I say what is back propagation actually? If I say in a very layman term, guys, what is back propagation means? If I'm getting some error, you have to update the weight. You have to change the weight. You have to, wherever weight there, you can change this value. See, it's a very, very complex, my dear friend. The intuition is very, grammatical intuition is very, very complex if you are not clear about the concept, right? And as I said, the machine learning is, a traditional machine learning is not capable of delivering all these things. In 2009, right? Nobody believing, trusting. Actually, the research paper in 2006 itself, Geoffrey Hinton, they had submitted the paper and all, and they said back propagation is very, very successful. But after 2012, it became a very, very successful. 2012, guys, you have seen tons of application came. We have Robin app, we have Siri app, we have Alexa, we have Google Home, right? There are n number of examples we have. You have seen so many things that become a very, very successful and very, very popular. And that is only because of the successful research paper and all. But 2009 till SVM, support vector machine, logistic regression, random forest, these were the in hype. No, people were using very frequently in random forest, support vector machine, logistic. But Geoffrey Hinton, he's the father of Geoffrey Hinton. His name is Geoffrey Hinton. If you guys really interested, I would suggest please go Geoffrey Hinton, just type and in Google Geoffrey Hinton, you will get lots of research paper he submitted, lots of research paper. And he's the father of back propagation. He has given this concept. So what he said, that whenever we do the forward propagation, if I'm getting loss value, error value, we have to go back and amend the weight value. How you amend this? How you amend this? You can say, what is my new weight? What is my new weight? Equal to, you can say, whatever the old weight there minus partial derivative of dl by dw. And please remember this, my friend, this data should be partial derivatives. Partial derivatives. And you guys, I hope you are from engineering background, you are pretty clear about integration and differentiation value, dy by dx, right? You should know very, very well in calculus differentiation and integration. To become a data scientist is not a big deal, right? Maths portion is required, but not too detailed. You should understand linear algebra, you should understand probability, you should understand permutation and combination, and you should also understand the differential and integral calculus, right? So what is saying back propagation? If this data is derivatives, then only we can do it, and that is called chain rule. That is basically called chain rule. So you have to solve this part so that you will get a new weight, and you can just impute here, new weight, and then again it will go back propagation. Whatever the y output I will get, I will see my actual data versus my predicted value. If my loss value error is coming closer to 0, very, very close to 0, we can say that much accuracy I have, and accordingly this process, this whole process, one forward process, forward propagation plus one backward propagation is known as, one backward propagation plus one forward propagation is known as epoch. Okay, my friend, so wherever you see epoch value, please understand epoch is nothing, it's called iteration. You can say this is called iteration. And what is iteration? One forward propagation plus one backward propagation, that is called one epoch. You will get, when you solve the deep neural networks, my friend, you will get thousands of epoch. Means, can you imagine if I say manually, is it possible? No, not at all. But machine is very, very powerful, so that it can do computationally very strong. It can do very easily. Why very strong? Because now if you use deep neural networks, we will not use CPU. Right? Your Jupyter notebook is supported CPU, but we can use GPU, graphical processing unit, or tensor processing unit, TPU. Very, very powerful computational. Also, we need, as I said, this is just a different algorithm. So in machine learning, my friend, machine learning, the main package you can use NumPy, Pandas, Matplot, Seaborn, sklearn. Sklearn is for machine learning package. But when you do deep neural network, you have to do not sklearn. You have to do Keras here. TensorFlow and Keras. You can use TensorFlow. Plus Keras. TensorFlow latest came in 2019, November 2019. So TensorFlow 2 you will use it. And Keras is just a wrapper. Keras is nothing, it's called wrapper only. This is backend and this is front end. There are lots of packages there. We have Theano, we have NLTK package, we have a SpaCy package. There are lots of packages there which you will learn. We have a PyTorch also. Facebook developed a PyTorch, right? PyTorch, PyTorch. So Facebook developed this. TensorFlow developed by Google. World best engineers are there in Google, right? Please remember this. So Google developed this awesome TensorFlow. If you guys know, coding wise, it's very, very simple, very, very simple. Especially TensorFlow, when you write 100 lines, if you know Keras, you have to write only 5 to 10 lines. That's it. Your work is done. Very, very powerful, imputational, and all these things. I hope, my dear friend, you understood. This is my input layer. The architecture. This is called hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2, and then finally you will get the output. Whenever you get the output, this is your predicted value. You have to compare and see the loss function. To reach here the output, that approach is called forward propagation. And how forward propagation works? by the help of a step function and activation function. And after that, it's accumulated, and finally we will get this value. If I'm getting some error, it will go back. That approach is called back propagation. And back propagation formula is weight new equal to weight old minus this. And also I told you this should be a chain rule. This is called chain rule, right? Why chain rule? Because this would be derivatives. We can do a derivatives. Let's say chain rule is nothing, my friend. Chain rule is, you can say, you have seen dy by dx equal to what? So you can say dy by du into du by dv and dv by dx. This is called chain rule. This should be a derivative forms. This is called chain rule. So anybody asks you what is back propagation, you can say back propagation is nothing, it's called chain rule, right? Plus memoization. Memoization. Please don't pronounce memorization. It's a memoization. Memoization means, you can see here every time this is my junction. This is my junction. This is my junction, right? If you come here, either you back propagation wanted to update this value or back propagation wanted to update this value. Back propagation come from this line. Here, if you reach here any weight value, you have to pass from W3 to, and this yellow color, whatever the yellow color I have given, this is my juncture, right? Whatever I'm just highlighting red color so that you can see this is my juncture. This is my juncture, guys. So you have to fix that value. You have to fix this value. This fixing the value is nothing. It's called memoization. That part is called memoization. So going forward, anybody asks you what is back propagation? Back propagation. Maybe you can explain the formula. You can say, okay, back propagation is nothing. This is called back propagation. But how you can define? You can say back propagation is just a chain rule plus memoization. You have to remember this part. My dear friend, are you with me till now? Everyone? Now you can see here one thing also you have to keep in mind whenever you solve deep neural network problem, my friend. Deep neural, this is very, very significant part. If you know these process, your deep neural networks topic completed. Neural networks. First part you have to do a pre-processing. First part you have to do pre-processing. What is pre-processing? Data normalization. You have to do data normalization, right? You can do the second part is called weight initialization. How weight is calculated? You should understand this. There is an approach called, my friend, Javier or Glaret, or this is mainly used for sigmoid. Or 10 hyperbolic activation function. Or we have HE initialization. Okay, this is mainly used for ReLU. ReLU is very famous activation function. And then you can say Gaussian or normal distribution, right? Normal distribution, where you will get this and standard deviation and mu value, mean value. These three things will decide your weight value. So please remember how to, if anybody say how to train your deep neural networks model, how to train your deep neural networks model. What is your approach? What you have to say? My friend, you can say the first approach I have to do a pre-processing. Second approach I have to do simple. No, if you know machine learning, what you do in pre-processing? You have to handle the missing value. You have to handle the outlier part. You have to do a encoding part. You have to do one hot encoder part. You have to apply dummy variables. You have to do feature engineering, feature scaling. Similarly, my friend, here you have to do data normalization. Second, you have to do a weight initialization. Point number 3. You can say we have to choose which activation function I have to use. Choose activation function. And how you do that? It depends on the case study, case to case. If you are solving classification problem and your output is yes or no, you can go by sigmoid, right? If you are solving, the classification problem, but the range is coming -1 to +1, go by 10 hyperbolic. If you say I wanted to only get the positive value, no negative value, go with ReLU, right? So like that you have to choose, use the agile approach, my friend, and choose the best activation function. This is what you can do. Option point number 4. Please remember this by heart, my friend, whenever you perform. And from where you will get the data and all, for that you guys have to refer kaggle.com. Please go in kaggle.com, my dear friend, the best resource. Please register yourself. You will get worldwide competition. Participate on the competition. You will get lots of insight. There is something called UCI machine learning. You will get thousands of data set for all kind of, if you wanted to do, clinical sector data set, research data set, agriculture data set, industrial data set, service sector data set, manufacturing data set, whatever data set you want, please go in these websites. These two, just type in Google, you will get complete details and pick the data set and perform it, right? But you have to spend time, my dear friend. It's not something, you can only understand, you go through this lecture and you can say I'm okay. You have to go and perform it. Yeah. Point number 4, you have to remember, that is called batch normalization, which is called batch normalization. Okay, very, very famous. You have to normalize your batch, right? How many layers there, how you have to connect it. And fifth approach is called dropout. This is the famous, it came in 2012 again, I think 2009, but it became very famous in 2012. And thankfully, our Indian Nitish Srivastava, right? He's the student of Geoffrey Hinton. He has given this dropout function, my friend. Dropout, the way in machine learning we can say PCA concept, right? Principal component analysis, or linear discriminant analysis, or TSNA approach, right? These are the approach you have seen, that is called feature engineering. Similarly, in deep learning, what is the feature engineering? Dropout. And dear friend, that's the biggest reason why, you can say deep learning came in 1957 and why it became very successful after 2012. The reason is that time we don't have, that time we were lacking with the data set. We didn't have dropout concept. That's the problem there, right? Due to lack of data, due to lack of computational power, and due to lack of removing the dropout, which is non-significant variable. That concept not there, right? Nitish Srivastava has given, let's say there are 4 input there. There are lots of hidden layer there. What it will do? They will see which one has less priority. They will remove this. Let's say these two has a less weight, and they will only go by this, and they will remove this value. They will remove this value. They will say, okay, I will not go by this, weight is very less. And how fast computational? It's very fast now. They can say only these, and this will consider only this, and this will consider, and then this and this will consider, and this. So how many? 1, 2, and 2, 3, right? So 2, 3 are 6, and again 1, 2 are so lots of weight. If you calculate all value, you can say 4 into 3. 4 into 3 equal to 12. Weight you have to calculate. Here you can say 3 into 2, 6 weight you have to calculate, and then 2 into 1, 2 weight. So how many is coming actually? How many? 18 to 20. 20 weight you have to calculate. But now how many require? 2 into 2, 4. And here 2 into 1. And here 1 into 1. So how many? 4, 2, 1. See, 6, 7. Only 7 weight required. 7 weight required out of 20. Means 13. Just I am saying that their weight value is more. I will consider weight value is less. Remove this. 13 weight I can remove immediately. That is called computational power, my friend. So please remember, dropout has a big role. Next part is called optimization techniques. Sixth part is called optimization techniques. Dear friend, this is again very, very important. Please Please refer materials, my friend. Please read research paper and all. Once session is over, please go understand whatever the terminology I said. Please go through it, understand pre-processing, weight initialization, what are the activation function there, what is the meaning of batch normalization, dropout, and then finally optimization. Very significant part, guys, because here you will learn gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent, mini batch SGD, then SGD with momentum, then 1 2 3 4, then we have ADA delta, and then RMS probe, and then finally, my dear friend, Adam. Okay, Adam is the best. Again, it came the latest 2012, and that after that it's become very, very powerful. So why so many optimization function? First came this. There were some discrepancy there. Second researcher came. They said, why not I can improve this? They have used this, right? I am not going in much deeper because if I explain these all parts, I need 2 hours, guys. Yeah, we don't have time is running against us. So I'm not going, but I'm just telling you these things. Please go through it, understand all these things. Very, very significant. If you really contribute, if you really wanted to contribute a significant thing in data science or a deep learning science field, then my dear friend, you should have very, very thorough in these parts. Yeah. So first is called gradient descent. Then second is called stochastic gradient descent. There were some problem there. Then mini batch came. And this become very successful, very successful. Still we are using mini batch stochastic gradient descent. Then we have used the momentum. Momentum is nothing, it's called a smoothing curve. Right? Smoothing estimation. Very, very famous. And then there are some improvement happening in ADA delta. There are some improvement happen. This is called fixing the eta value, right? When you write it, this value, weight new. When I say weight new equal to weight old minus, you can say here, eta value. This is called learning rate into derivatives of L by derivatives of weight old. See, I have written here, this is called my weight function. This is called my back propagation function. You can write here, you can write add this value also. Minus eta value. This is called eta. Okay, this is called eta value. So this eta means learning rate. There is hyperparameter also, you will get hyperparameter, which is denoted by, parameter is denoted by beta. You have to fix the weight beta equal to 0.95. Fix the weight of learning rate 0.001. This is the learning, very, very less, right? So this is my option number 6. Then approach number 7. And here, my friend, please remember, all model, whatever you will do, you have to learn all these things, because only then you able to understand. But when you do the real-time case study, you have to only use optimization equal to Adam, because Adam, you have a beta also, you have learning rate eta value also there, we have eta value also there, learning rate also there, which is fixed, and then you will get a momentum as well. Right? You will get all kind of things, means whatever the features there in these two, it comes here as well. And mini batch is of course there, and other things here, momentum will also come. So this is a combination of all activation functions. You can understand like that. But please read research paper, understand all these things, guys. Next, point number 7. You have to fix the hyperparameter. You can say fixing the hyperparameter. And what are the hyperparameter? You can say how many dropout required, right? We have to use Adam optimization techniques. We have to use Adam optimization techniques. We have to fix the activation function. These are called hyperparameter tuning, right? You have to fix this. And then 8th number, you can say loss function. because once you know the loss function, only then you are able to perform it, right? You can say how much accurate we are and all, right? Once this approach is completed, guys, then you can say this whole approach is called this till 8.8 0.128 are called forward propagation. Forward propagation, simplicity. And then you have to use back propagation and other stuffs, right? And this is all approach for deep neural networks. Okay, my dear friends, so in a nutshell, anybody asks you going forward, anyone asks you what all things you know in deep neural networks, you can say we have something called input. We will get some weight. Then you have to remember the step function, activation function, whatever there. Then you can say I will use the optimization techniques. Then you can say once optimization techniques works, I will see the loss function. Once it is done, I will use and this all approach is called forward propagation, and then backward propagation. Backward propagation is nothing, it's called chain rule. My data should be a differentiable, otherwise it will not work. And then you can say memoization. Once done, you can say dropout concept. This all approach are called, my dear friend, is called deep neural networks. And after that, there were some problem happened earlier when dropout came. It solved this. Earlier, the problem in before 2012, the biggest problem there in vanishing gradient. What is vanishing gradient? It is saying, guys, if I am saying here weight new equal to weight old minus learning rate, partial derivatives of this by weight old. Let's say this value, if dl by dw old is very less, I am saying 0, then what happens? This all becomes 0, and your weight new equal to weight old. No change. If there is no change, you will every time you will get the same loss function, same loss value, right? This is called vanishing gradient. Or this value or partial derivative of this, and this value is very less, very close to 0, means very less, near value. And eta value, you already know that. The value is 0.01 or 0.001. Very less value we are taking it. Now what happened? If you already compare with 0.001 versus 0.001, hardly matter. No, it will come 0.0001 only. Hardly matter. So in this case, that problem is called vanishing gradient problem. And for that, dropout come into picture. And that is why Nitish Srivastava become very famous. And he's working in NVIDIA company. Very nice company. This is actually gaming company in 2015. But after that, it become a complete deep learning company, guys. Deep learning. And this company only gives the GPU, graphical processing unit. Now, whenever you buy laptop and all, you can see how much GPU is there, because you can do these things. So this is all about theory part, my dear friend. I hope you understood the holistic approach, what deep neural networks is, how we can understand, how we can connect with the biological neuron versus machine learning neuron or deep learning neuron. Because this is very simple. The way our brain is functioning, similarly, our deep learning can also function. My friend, can you please give me a quick yes, everyone, so that I can go ahead with the case study and I can show the case study as well. And then I'll give you the opportunity to ask questions. Anything you have, there is no boundaries today. You can ask anything which bothers you, and then probably we will wrap up the session. Everyone comfortable till now?
Students answer. Students.
Okay, no problem. I think there is no questions then. So
Okay.
now I'm going to pick the case study, my friend. You can see this. What you do if you have a Jupyter notebook or a Spider or PyCharm, it's very good. If not, then no need to worry. Or if you have a GPU already there in your system, it's okay. If not, then no need to worry. We have something called, you can just go in Google and just type Google Colab. Google Colab. This Google Colab is nothing. It's a, Google is providing 12 GB GPU free of cost, right? Free of cost, which cost in market, if you buy it, it costs close to 1 lakh, right? So no need to buy it, my friend. For practice, for learning purpose, please come here in Google Colab and do it from here itself, right? It's all set up. Everything is already there. Only thing, when you complete your project, you have to save in your drive, in your desktop or somewhere. Otherwise, it will not save it here. That is the only barrier there. But for learning purpose, just type Google Colab and you should have, have your Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, only then you can do it. If you don't, then please create. So this is my Jupyter notebook. I'm just closing this. So this is called Google Colab. Look like exactly the same the way our Jupyter notebook looks like, my friend. You can come here and say new notebook. Click on the new notebook. You can see here. It's loading. Just give me a second. Yeah, see here. This is called just like a Jupyter notebook. If you guys know that Jupyter, you can write a code. You can see anything you can write. You can say, first what you do, you can click on the runtime and change your runtime type. You can see it's providing hardware accelerator is GPU and TPU. Select GPU and save this. And you can see here connect. You can connect this. Google is providing this. By default, you have already installed the Jupyter notebook. Everything will come here, guys. First, whenever you open this, click on runtime, change the runtime here, select the GPU, and then, my friend, you can connect it in RAM. You can see here, RAM is giving 12.69 GB free of cost, right? And we are getting 68.3 GB space also. You can store here. And then you can write anything like I'm saying here, you are writing import, just I'm saying import NumPy. As see, by default, I'm getting here the hint also. You can select this. You can say import pandas. And you can see here pandas as PD. Everything all will come. Import matplot. Matplot. See here matplot as PLT this. All these things you will get it. Import Seaborn as SNS. Right? Similarly, import TensorFlow. TensorFlow as TF. This is the latest one, right? So all these things, and then what you have to do, you can execute this. This is the executing button, run button. You can click this cell and it executed very fastly, guys. See, done. If you do the same activities in Jupyter notebook, it will take time, but here, no, nothing. If you wanted to delete it, guys, you can see here the delete button. You can just delete it and do practice. Okay, so please do practice it. Now I'm picking one case study, like I said. I'm going here, I'm saying open notebook and upload use file, and I'm showing one case study, my friend, for deep neural networks, deep learning, and the case Fason-MNIST dataset. Very, very nice dataset, my friend. You can see this. Okay, so this is a Fason-MNIST dataset. What you have to do, my friend, you can go in Google, and type it here, Fason-MNIST dataset. Fason-MNIST dataset. And you can go here in this and see, you will get complete documentation, right? What is this TensorFlow, how Fason-MNIST dataset works, what are the labels here. You can see, as you know, Python starts with 0 index, right? So we have total 10 labels there. Label 0, label 1, 2, 3 up to 10. And what is this description? 0 means t-shirt, 1 means trousers. So all dress code is there. And these are the data set there, my friend. These are the data set. How many data set we have? 60,000. And 28 by 28 is nothing. It's called pixel quality. We, as a human being, whenever you see any picture, you can understand by the shape, their size, right? But machine always think any picture by pixel quality only. What is their pixel value? 28 by 28 pixel, right? If you guys know CNN concept, you will learn very thoroughly there. If you already know, very good. If you don't know, then you have to learn there, right? So these are the values. 60,000 images there in training data set and 10,000 test data set. You can see here training and test data set. Similarly, 60,000 my training and test data set given. So this fashion MNIST data set is very popular data set, and you can just go and review all these things, all details given. Again, you can go here, write fashion MNIST and Keras. You can go in the Keras website, and here you can see all this detail. You can read what is all this. So it's already given, and what is the meaning and all. So you will understand all these things, my friend. This is the data set I'm picking here, right? This is the data set I'm picking here. You can see this, my friend. So I'm going here. This is the, now you can understand this line by line, my friend. First thing first, whenever you come here in the Jupyter Google Colab, you can just see the runtime GPU is there or not. So yes, GPU is there. It's connected. You can connect it. It's not connected then. Manage session. So I have already opened the new session. So I have to close that one first. Okay. Now this is done. Now you can connect this. Okay. Now it's connected. Now it's connected. See, this tick marks means it's connected. Now you are ready to perform it. So please understand, NumPy means mathematical calculation. Matplot means visualization. Seaborn means, my dear friend, it's a visualization plus statistics, right? If you wanted to do any stats things, KL test, KL divergence, hypothesis testing, ANOVA testing, Gini index, information gain, anything, box plot, a basic thing, PDF, probability density function, anything, normal distribution you wanted to find, you can install this package. And Panda means import and export. And Matplot means I wanted to see the visualization here only. That's why you can write this part. So this is the package name you have to install here. You can click this. Done. Now you can come here in the second part. You can see import TensorFlow as Keras or as TF. And as I told you, Keras is the wrapper of TensorFlow. I don't want to write. See, what is the difference here? Also, the big debate happened, right? Who is using TensorFlow and who is using, Keras? If anybody say who is using very deeply, if you are doing a research work, guys, if you are doing a research work, please go and learn TensorFlow, because here it's a simple language, right? You have a control here. You have a control here. But Keras is a high interpreted language. It's high interpreted language. So that is why we can say wrapper. It's a back. This part is called backend and this is called front end, right? So if you use both this, then you have to write only 10 lines. So any developer, any programmer, any data scientist, any machine learning engineer, any artificial intelligence engineer, they are using Keras. But if you are doing hardcore research work, one research you are spending full time, then please go with TensorFlow. Okay. But I have seen most of the engineer who is in Google and all, when they submit their paper, research paper and all, they are also using Keras for simplicity purpose, right? But you will get some this. So what I have done it, guys, I have written here TensorFlow as TF. TensorFlow is nothing, the way you can say NumPy, similarly TensorFlow there. TensorFlow actually written in C++ language, okay, C++ language. So C++ language also supported Python, okay. And we have installed the Keras, and I am saying here version, latest version, as I told you, in version 2 came in November 2019, right? Recently it came. It's approximate, 1 year, close to 2 years, right? This is what happens. So you run this, execute here, and once you execute it, see it's a 2.5. Latest version is this. Now this is my data set, fashion feminist data set. How you import this? You can say, you can write an object name here, fashion feminist equal to keras.dataset.fashion feminist. You have to install this package. You can import this data set. Now you can say, I wanted to see fashion feminist data set. You can run it and it is giving the path here. See, by default, you are getting complete path in your system. So whatever there in this data set, it came in your system. Now you can say, split the data into training and test. So here, train image, train label, image, and what is their label? Label means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 9, and image means what is the image is all about. And here you can see test image and test label equal to fashion feminist load data. Run this. Print means you will get the same result. You can see here downloading done. Downloading done. We are getting all the data set whatever there in Keras. And now you can see this is my data set. Now you can say you have to assign the name. Now where I get this name, my friend? Where I get, these are the name I have taken here. T-shirt, trousers, pullover, dress, coat, sandal, shirt, sneaker, bag, ankle boot, all these things I have written from here. So this is just I have given the class name equal to, these are the copy and paste. Execute it, and now you can run this class. You will get exactly the same thing, same name. Now you can say this number, actually we have 60,000 images there. I wanted to see some of the image. Can I see that? You can just go and run this. You can say PLT is a matplot. PLT is a matplot. So you can say plot figure. IMShow means image show, right? I wanted to see image number 1, a 0, right? And color bar is blank, right? As per the my normal color, by default color. Grid means the grid line, right? This is called grid line. If you increase the sign, you will see that it's called grid line. Okay, it's a grid line, my friend. Okay, so this is called grid line. This you can see here the grid line. So this is called grid line. So what happened here? I'm saying here image, color, grid line, and show me. Run this. You can see this. So I'm getting here this. You can say I wanted to see other data set. You can put it here 500. Any things you can put it, you will get, because we have a 60,000 image there. You can see position number 5,000, maybe this bag. You can say what is the 5,000. Whatever the image there, that will come in your system. See this. I can say it's a shirt actually. I'm saying 5,005. You can put anything, any image you wanted to see. This is again shoes, right? So this is what I got it. Similarly, you can say 50,000, image number, position number 50,000, and I'm saying 50,001 or 0, whatever point you can do it, and you can see you are getting a sandal here, right? So all these things.